see the truth as to what's happening in Ukraine, Mark? Because it seems to me that we've got a number of people peddling misinformation and disinformation, specifically for governments and special agencies. You've been having a look at Claire Wardle.
Yes. Um, she's involved a lot in trying to debunk people that are very skeptical, of course, of the whole COVIDocracy and climate deniers. I'm sure it'll traipse into election deniers. Remember, there's all these types of deniers now, and one of us, any of us, must be at least one of them, right? We stand accused and we almost have no defense if you raise any questions at all. And yeah, that would dovetail into anybody that might question the narrative on Ukraine. Why wouldn't it, right? Anybody that questions the narratives in these other areas is suspect. So why wouldn't they come down on people that question the common Ukrainian narrative, which, as we say, as we said a few minutes ago, it involves these outlandish claims that the Russians would just abandon a high quality, brand new, dependable, expensive weaponry and just turn tail and run when the independent analysts you guys have had on the show have shown pretty definitively that the Russians have the upper hand. And we know that they want to secure the eastern regions and make them separate republics and have a clear corridor down to the Crimea, which is, of course, explains why they repaired that bridge so quickly. They have important Navy assets down there. So, yeah, Claire Wardle, am I saying it right? Claire Wardle, PhD. I looked up a little something on her. She's co-founder and the U.S. director of First Draft, and the world's foremost nonprofit focused on research and practice to address misinformation and disinformation. Under her leadership, First Draft has emerged as the global leader in combating mis and disinformation online as a think and do tank, not just a think tank, mind you, a think and do tank. First Draft has conducted expansive on the ground work during international elections. To identify false news stories, couldn't be their own, right? Most likely to spread and blunting their force. I believe we're seeing the same thing on the screen here. Previously, Wardle was a research fellow at the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy at the JFK School of Government, Harvard. Before that, she was the research director at the Toe Center for Digital Journalism at Columbia Journalism School. That's one of the biggest journalism schools in the country. They put out a magazine called the Columbia Journalism Review, a trade publication. Head of social media for the UN Refugee Agency, that figures, and director of news services for Storyful. Don't know what that is. But going down a little bit, she was responsible for the design and development of the social media training program at the BBC, one that's been taken up by over 3,000 staff there at the BBC. And she's one of the world's leading experts on user-generated content and has led 2 substantial research projects investigating how it's handled by news organizations. And of course, the kicker, who could have thought it? Wardle also sat on the World Economic Forum's Global Agenda Council on the future of information and entertainment. So once again, another expert wearing all the brownie stripes of the establishment. And evidently, this lady is going to be a leading voice. She's currently at Brown University in Rhode Island, which this little biography fails to mention. She came out of the Annenberg School, I think it's called, in Pennsylvania. But yeah, she's one to watch. And First Draft, this think and do tank, I think is going to be pretty prominent in trying to debunk people like us, you might say.
Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Well, I was thinking common purpose as you showed me a training involvement with the BBC. She's trained 3,000 people, but of course many years ago it was the political charity, as I call them, Common Purpose, that was busy inside the BBC helping to reframe, transform their people. Now, we're not saying Miss Wardle's doing anything wrong. The key point is we'd like to ask a question: what exactly is she doing? And where does her allegiance lie?